say resist is futile. That individual is out of style. It's a simulation, not a but I know less about
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hello and good evening. Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 7, Unnatural Selection is over. And it has been since 1989. But we're just getting started here in 2025 for our live stream review here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or audio version. We got a great panel here to break it all down. One yet to come. First up, it's the man I just went on a Star Trek cruise with. It's Adam Woodward.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
I'm all right. You know, we're recovering from the plague that we both got on the cruise ship, apparently. But you know, luckily we're
a little congested around the head for sure.
Yeah, at least we're not rapid aging. So you know, I guess we're doing better on that standpoint. And coming in next, they call him the GOAT. It is my dad, Ted Mater.
Hello. My video's not working tonight. I can't figure it out, but I'm hearing. You can hear my voice.
The sound of your voice, yes, and you know, hopefully you're not rapid aging either, Dad. Davan Skelhorn also expected to join us, but he's dealing with his youngins and some other kind of plague as they're throwing up all over the place. We hear. But for the next hour or so, we're going to be talking all about this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, breaking it down and talk about the plot. I have spoilers if you don't want to know about this episode, but if you know, we're assuming you've seen it. And in this episode, the Enterprise encounters a Starfleet supply ship where everyone has died from rapid aging. They must find the cause before the scientists on a research colony suffer the same fate. You know, and Dad, I invited you to this one because, you know, of course we had gone through the episodes of the original series as we had with Adam back when we were doing those podcasts a few years ago. There was the episode The Deadly Years where they all kind of got a rapid aging thing, and it kind of reminded me of that episode. So I said, you know, this
Miri
might be good.
too. Miri, remember Miri?
Oh yeah, Miri also had that. Oh, there he is, Davan Skelhorn.
Yes.
Made it. Jeez. Look, we're flying through nebulas today, fellas.
Yeah.
Nebulous.
Nebulas.
Yeah.
You didn't know that much.
Sticky nebulas.
Could come out of
Runny
a kid.
nebulas.
Yeah.
Every kind of nebula you can imagine.
Yeah. Gotta get them ginger ale or whatever. That's what I used to get.
That's what I used to get too.
Yeah.
Turns out soda pop's not good for you. The things we didn't know in the 80s.
Even if ginger's in it? Come on. You know, home remedy?
Is there ginger in it, though? Is there?
It was the 80s. We didn't know. Come on.
When we were kids, we got molasses and ginger for your sore throat. Real ginger and real molasses.
That probably
yeah, but real ginger and real molasses works.
Yeah, probably work, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just getting my dad's take on this episode.
Okay.
I'm assuming you've never seen it before, Dad?
No, I have not.
And
First time.
were you familiar with Dr. Pulaski?
No, I wasn't familiar with her at all. Is that her only episode, or is she in a lot?
She's this whole season. She's only season 2.
Oh, okay. No, I hadn't seen her before. I thought it was a quick one and done for her.
No,
but
one season.
Somehow they did some kind of magic at the end and brought her back.
some kind of transporter hijinks, if you will. There was also, I can see Davan
Yeah.
coughing. I'm kind of got a
Wait, you
little
like
bit of-
sympathy coughing for me over there?
No, Adam and I were just saying we got infected on that cruise with some kind of thing, or in the
Oh,
airport.
you got con crud.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and so we're all dealing with these different bugs and whatever. Just like that, they were. What was the disease in here? Like the something flu, some kind of alien flu that was the main ailment here. But yeah, Dad. I guess I don't know how many episodes of Next Gen you've watched overall. But I guess Pulaski was kind of like when Dr. Crusher leaves the show at the end of the first season. She gets fired from the show by Rick Berman, more or less, and then she gets brought back in season 3. But in the meantime, in season 2, we get Pulaski, who's kind of like a female version of Bones, in terms of how she's written, her personality,
And Ted, she actually guest starred in one of the original series as a very young.
2 episodes.
Two episodes, yeah. Sorry.
I believe she wore a red Star Trek uniform.
Yes. So she is in. Hold on, Diana Muldaur. I gotta quickly look it up. But she's also in the episode. She's in the episode with the Medusan. In Is There in Truth No Beauty?
Yeah, I thought I recognized the face.
Yes, and so she's in that one with the Medusans, but she's also in she wears the red uniform. I'm trying to remember the name of her character. Is it Miranda or something like that?
She had kind of a big role too in that one, didn't she?
So Anne Mulhall is her in Return to Tomorrow is her other character, where she played a Starfleet officer.
But didn't she have a fairly significant role?
In those 2 episodes? Yes, yeah, she was very much.
Yeah.
She was.
She wasn't just one of the red shirts that got killed. That's usually in the original.
No,
series.
she was a red shirt that lived.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And so, I think they knew her from that, and they brought her in to sort of play this kind of a little bit more of a grumbly doctor, woman doctor here.
Crusher's son was still on there as the navigator.
Yeah, he gets left behind by Dr. Crusher for this whole season.
Well, they did this whole thing where she was going to be the chief medical officer of Starfleet.
Yes.
Doug Gates.
Is that where they hit her for a year?
Yeah, they're like, she's now the head of all Starfleet Medical. You're like, oh, well, that seems like a promotion. Why would she want to come back to the Enterprise? But somehow she does. So
didn't want an office job. Yeah. Didn't want an office job.
And it's never really even talked about. Where it's like, well, for the last year, I've been doing all this, crazy stuff. It's she just kind of.
Isn't there a throwaway line actually in one episode where I think she's talking to Deanna, or it's like she came back for Wesley?
Maybe. Yeah, there might be a line. Like, it's gonna be interesting when we catch up to season 3, which won't be that far away from now.
When's the Borg coming on?
The Borg is it's this season. So the first introduction comes in Q Who, which is near the end of this season, and then
I'll come on for that one. On for that one.
And I know you want to be. You said you always wanted to be here for Best of Both Worlds, because I think we even watched that together back when it was on.
Yeah, maybe.
That was a big event. So that's kind of just setting the table for everything here in this particular section within the TNG production and why this is all happening. But I guess also go around to Davan and Adam. Like, do you guys like this episode?
Yep. Because I like Pulaski, and so does Adam.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Adam, because you can help me defend Pulaski.
Yeah, well, if Jody was here, he would be none too.
I like Crusher too, but I think that Pulaski came on as a stronger character right away. Like, and this I kind of like to have to save the world, because we've got an infection kind of episodes. Like we saw, you just said, we were talking about the earlier Davan before you came on. We were talking about Star Trek original series and how many episodes there was. McCoy racing to the end to save them all from some plague,
I stand corrected. It was Morris Hurley that fired Beverly Crusher or Gates McFadden, not Rick Berman. But there's no way Morris Hurley could have done that without Rick Berman's permission. Sure. So I'm sure they were both involved, but maybe with Morris Hurley definitely driving that more. Yeah. So guys, let's we'll break down the episode in like the plot wise. This moves pretty fast. Like, there's not a ton, like, even though the episode I wasn't bored by it, but it was definitely like not complicated. Let's say that in terms of how it came together. So the Enterprise is going at warp. They're just kind of having a day. Then Deanna Troi comes to see the captain, who is reading a book. And I don't know if this is the first time he goes, come, off the chime, but he was definitely doing it twice in this episode, and I noticed it. And Deanna Troi shows up, and he's like, come, counselor, let's have a little chat here. I'd like to talk to you about Pulaski. What do you think about her? And Deanna's like, well, she's very dedicated. And he's like, well, will that dedication be a problem? And I didn't really understand this conversation, guys, like what he's asking her, or but if you can help enlighten me.
He thinks she's insubordinate already.
Oh, already, okay. And they haven't fully come in.
She never could get a word. He never could get a word in when he's talking to her. Like she always cuts him off. So I think he was kind of having that in his craw.
Right.
That was a hilarious scene. Actually. It's like, oh, and by the way, if I could like finish a sentence every now and then, that would be fantastic.
I'd appreciate it, you know.
I would appreciate it if you'd let me finish my sentences once in a while.
Well, wouldn't we all like that? So, you know, but Deanna Troi says, don't worry about her. She's one of the most dedicated doctors, medical officers I've ever met, including Beverly Crusher, I suppose, you know, so if, Morris Hurley might have something to do with that as well. So the Enterprise is going along, and then they get a distress call from a ship, and so they decide to investigate. The signal that they're getting, you can barely hear anything in it. It's like there's the most faint transmission. So there's not much they can gain. There's a bit of a mystery here to be solved. So that's our teaser for the episode. It's just hey, there's some kind of mysterious distress call, and there was, I guess, the preamble as well with Picard's not super sure about Pulaski, I guess, is the other thing going into the episode. We got our title card, Unnatural Selection. And they're still trying to solve the transmission. I think we get it replayed again, but it's not any more decipherable than before. This episode written by John Mason and Mike Gray. I don't think I've ever seen these names, those two particular names. So I wonder, this was back when they were still submitting scripts. Directed by Paul Lynch. And then along the way, Geordi comes up to his engineering station. Again, not the first time he's in it, but again, establishing that Geordi can be on the bridge too, even though he's chief engineer now. They eventually approach the ship. What was the name of the ship? The USS Lantry. Lantry. It looks to be a Miranda class vessel, if I'm correct.
It sure does. Good old Reliant.
Yeah. Looks like the Reliant from Wrath of Khan.
Except is it missing the roll bars?
Yeah, it doesn't have like the upper section. Yeah, but otherwise it's pretty much the same design. I don't know where the deflector is on the ship. It doesn't seem to have one, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
Well, that's the back.
Dave, we're not seeing any screenshots. Are you not?
I am.
Yeah,
Is the live broadcast not seeing them? I don't know.
Well, maybe you just it looks like you're doing it some different way.
Am I?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
It's over to the left there.
It just came up, she says. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Crisis averted. You get a little bit more of a close-up look there of the Lantry. Very much a Reliant-esque vessel. Even it's got the force fields around those aft bays. So there's no life signs. No one's on board, and so Worf wants to beam over, but Picard's like, we should take some caution here. He gets the command codes for the ship. He has to, so that they can access the main viewers. And
that was actually, I don't think it was a necessary scene, but I really liked it. I liked the fact that he had to get those codes.
What I do like about this episode is that they have to practically solve these things, and it's just like sometimes I think they take for granted that the crew has to actually do things and move the ship and access things.
couldn't they have transported Data over there because he's not a human, so he couldn't get a virus or anything, right?
They
Right.
mentioned that too later, where he's like, "I can't be infected," and she's just like, "Yeah, well,
I think
you know that."
they-
or like,
They're just too. They don't know exactly what's happening just yet, so they gotta be pro.
But remember, Data did get that polywater intoxication.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
can get infected with certain kinds of things. So like, and he even says to Pulaski, she's like, "Well, you can't be infected." He's like, "That's not 100%. You don't know for sure what I can and can't be infected with." So, but anyway, so that all comes. He gets the command codes. They access the ship. Pulaski comes up, "Sick bay on standby, Captain, ready to go."
Very
and-
eager.
Very eager. What's happening here with the Lantry, and then we get the interior shot of the bridge, and it's a grim scene. They're all a bunch of
sleeping.
yeah, it's nap time here on the Lantry.
Mm-hmm.
They having a closer look, and the doctor's trying to get scans, but she's saying like they all appear to be have died of old age.
They're dead, Jim.
They're dead. They're all dead, Jim. Look at the natural causes is the thing. We see here that the captain, he's grown many moles in his life here. Maybe an excessive amount of moles on his body.
It's weird.
Yeah. I never knew someone with that so many. And apparently we're told he's the same age as Riker at this time, so he went fast here. So it's a grim scene. They looks like they had a battle with time and lost, says Worf.
That was a corny line.
Yeah, well, hey. Take it up with the writers. So it's so now they say, okay, well they're all dead. They're all died of natural causes. This can't be. This doesn't make any sense. So that's the crux of it. They have a meeting here in the observation lounge to discuss it, and that they don't know what the causes are. There's a mystery here. All they know is that the ship went to a port, to this other what is it called, Darwin Station, and the first officer had the something flu. I'll call it like the Levidian flu or whatever sci-fi flu they thought, but it would not cause this. They're told. So there's a lot of mystery here, a lot of things. So they put a warning buoy on the Lantry, and it all lights
this is
up.
interesting. This is obviously way pre-COVID and everything, but they want nothing to do with the ship. Like they're
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that they put it under quarantine here. They leave it here, but then at the end of this episode, they come back and they scuttle the ship. And so it's interesting that they don't do it here. They could have scuttled the ship at this point, but they choose to leave it intact. I guess maybe in case they want to come back and investigate it more potentially, until they can really figure out the root cause of this. So they have to leave it an empty, like a tomb, effectively. And the Enterprise decides to go to their last port of call to figure out what can we figure out.
So Dave, before you continue, and now that I see as Heather's here. This episode, and I'm going to go into fun facts a little early. This episode was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Achievement in Hairstyling for a series. So let's watch as we go through this episode.
Hairstyling, okay. Well, all right, let's figure it out.
She's got a nice perm there.
And what about Wesley? Wesley's got the hair too,
Art's looking pretty good.
It's look.
Mm-hmm.
My dad
Had a
approves.
place on Data. That's a wig, though.
Yeah.
For hairstyling, yes, Heather.
For hairstyling. Okay, well here's
Hers,
our
well, that's fine. I guess.
our guest star here, Dr. Sarah Kingsley, as played by Patricia Smith, who we're told to just celebrate. 35, she said.
35.
Yeah, she's looking a little long in the tooth for 35, I would say. But
People looked older back then.
it was the 80s. We didn't know yet, really, about all these things. So, the end of the 80s, it's coming off here. And she kind of explains that they all have this rapid aging disease. So they're kind of like, okay, this does seem to be, we seem to have come to the right place. And we maybe have found the origin of this here. The Emmy must have been for recreating gritty hairstyles. Well, hey, that's an achievement in itself. She may look old, but her hair looks incredible, says Heather. That's a good one. And she talked, but will somebody just please think about the children? Is Dr. Sarah Kingsley's main thing. You need to beam them up. They're not infected. And we know that we're told that the station's primary purpose is genetic research, that they're almost doing a eugenics kind of a thing here. Is this kind of similar to...
Yeah. I don't know how they're getting away with this.
I don't either. I thought this was banned.
I thought this was banned too. And after
it's one of the things I wanted to talk about at the end of the review here. There's a couple things in this episode.
Well, the doctor makes this distinction there. It's not engineering. We made them. And I'm like, okay, but like, what's the semantics?
From what?
From what? like, just from selective breeding.
They're saying they're not tinkering with an existing person's DNA. They're building it from the ground up, but like, they're still building superhumans, isn't that?
Superhumans who can that have telepathy and telekinesis.
Seriously, yeah. There's no way they should be getting away with this.
This seems like a little outside Federation law.
Well, seems like we're building another crew of
superhumans. Dad, what do you think? Should this be allowed?
No, I don't think so. But then again, it reminds me a little bit of the Wrath of Khan, where they tried to make the superhumans.
Exactly. Yeah, but they made a law after that it was not allowed. So that's why we're trying to figure this out: is why this is going on in the 24th century on a Federation research station.
And it's going so well.
It was going so well. It's those outpost scientists, Davan. Like they can't be trusted. They're always up to something.
TNG season 1 and 2 is hilarious with the outpost scientists. It's just constant, ridiculous outpost scientists.
Yeah. So they have this meeting about, well, okay, should we beam up the children? Should we listen to Dr. Sarah Kingsley and do what they're asking? And is it worth the risk? And they're saying, well, no, we can't put this ship at risk. We can't do anything. But I think Picard's like, he's wrestling with the ethics of, well, what can we do? How can we try to help these people, and also try to solve the mystery of what happened to the Lantry? Right, so
this scene here is where like they should have thrown in and how are they getting away with all this genetic engineering?
Right, but it seems like they know almost very little about what they're doing on this particular outpost. So maybe it's a little off the books, maybe a little less
What would be
published.
kind of funny though is that if they had just sort of recapped all their visits to outposts and all the problems they've had in the first season.
That would be like a Lower Decks line. They're like, every time we go somewhere, these outpost scientists are up to no good. Like does no one check this stuff?
We've got carbon, based life forms. We've got Ira from last week.
Right. Iris. Yeah, Dr. Ira Graves. Yeah, he was up.
God.
Another outpost scientist who's up to no good. Anyway, so I think
No one wants to love him, Dave.
Picard finally agrees to this this idea that Pulaski has, which is like, can we, we'll beam up one of the kids in basically in suspended animation. What's that stuff they put Han Solo in? It's basically, it's now the Star Trek version of that. They call it something else, Splatolite or something like that. Suspended animation, and you can see that Worf is none too pleased with this decision by the captain. Worf's one job is security here. He's like, can we not beam up sick people to our ship from the plague planet? But Picard's saying, yes, we're going to give
Worf
this a
hates
shot.
being sick.
Worf, yeah, you ever seen a Klingon sneeze? It ain't pretty. But Pulaski, she's pushing for this. She wants to try to help, even though she's also responsible for the health and safety of everyone on the Enterprise. But she, to see what they can do within the context of this mission. So they get Geordi involved to help create a force field in sickbay.
She does have piercing blue eyes, though, doesn't she?
Pulaski? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They get the force field in place. This is a serious looking force field. I don't think we see this one again in this form with like the distorted light coming around it. O'Brien, she referred to, I think the first time as Chief O'Brien. And he's
first time in yellow, maybe not
the first time, but he's popped up a couple times. He's been in gold since season 1 actually, but I think this is the first time he gets a name or the second time he gets a name, and he has a lot to do in this episode. Like I think that this is maybe O'Brien's breakout episode in terms of him being like, he comes up with a solution here that not even Geordi thinks of, right? Or Data, for that matter, right? So Brian's, establishing himself as a miracle worker starts here. Dad, what do you think of the O'Brien character that we meet in this episode?
Yeah, I think he was the guy who pulled it off at the end where he got her back, right? He was the guy doing all the work.
Yeah, and
he's the Irish guy that was in a lot of episodes.
He's in a lot of episodes, and then he becomes part of the main cast in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the spin-off show. Yeah. But this is
he had more curlier hair, longer hair then.
Right.
Shorter,
Yeah. Jesus, but he becomes he's kind of the everyman character as well in Starfleet. He's an enlisted guy, not an officer. So
he's a hero. Set like 3 by this point.
Yeah, he's a Union man.
He is better than a hero.
He's like, hey, I also not only do I have to beam up this child, I have to beam his suspended animation coding up like 2 milliseconds before he materializes. Otherwise, everyone could get infected if he does carry disease. And when he materializes, we're told that this kid is 12 years old, but he's clearly more like a 20-year-old when he comes out. And Worf goes, "It's a trick. They've tricked us with this." Whatever, but apparently, he says, "Hey,
it looks like they wrapped his whole body in saran wrap."
Yeah, I do wonder how they pulled this off, because obviously the actor can't breathe under whatever that is, so he's just holding his breath for the shot or whatever. Maybe that will come up in fun facts. Styrolite is the name of the
Styrolite
of the thing. I don't think we ever see this Styrolite again in quite this form.
I never saw it before
in Star Trek, but it seems to be this thing that they're comfortable with. So they drop the force field while he's in the Styrolite. But Deanna Troy's he's like a telepath. I can, even though he's in like suspended animation, I can feel this. Like it's strong, right? And they're all kind of trying to take that in. Yeah, you get another shot of him there. I think this, from a special effects point, this always kind of stood out to me as being something different and cool. Trying to get a closer look there, Davan.
It is really good.
Yeah. That is like it's almost like he's an action figure that's been like shrink wrapped or something, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It looks thicker, but more clear than like saran wrap or something. Yeah. Like from far away, it just looks like they greased him up. But like
when you get in close, it's almost like he's like in a plastic mold.
It's a thick shell, though. Yeah,
it might be a plastic mold they made of his face and his whole body, and then they put it right over him.
I think that's what it is.
And they're like, just hold your breath for like the next 2 minutes.
Probably an expensive prop.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So then there's a little bit of a jump here. They're still doing the scans on him, and Dr. Crusher, I keep wanting to call her Dr. Crusher. Dr. Pulaski says, "I can only do so much, Captain. I want to take him out of the Styrolite so that I can do more scans." He's like, what if he has a disease? What if he's going to give us the old age disease, and then we're all going to die? And I'm already kind of old, so you're muted, Adam, if you're saying something.
The disrespect, Adam, calling her Dr. Crusher. He's not going to call Dr. Crusher Dr. Pulaski the once next season, guarantee it. Guarantee
well, maybe I'll do it a couple times just to make it fair.
As much as I like,
oh, we lost Adam.
As much as I like Dr. Pulaski, I found this whole scene a little weird because she shouldn't be advocating to take him out of stasis or whatever he's in Styrolite. Like she's got the primary responsibility for their Enterprise crew, not this 12-year-old man.
Yes, 12-year-old. This 12-year-old man, exactly.
Definitely seems to differ her from Beverly. You feel like Beverly would just chill out and like see what's up.
No, I do like the solution that we're going to get to in a minute.
Right. where he's saying no, you can't take him out, and this is where she's like, I like if you let me finish my sentences once in a while, because she just starts quoting regulations, and he's quoting regulations, and they're butting heads, and there's kind of like this thing, that because she really admires Picard, we're told, but in this episode,
that award-winning perm.
That's an Emmy award-winning perm right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s.
Deanna's hair is always like fantastic.
Yeah,
too,
I don't think Deanna always has that particular thing in her hair, like that purple. This would be more Heather's expertise.
A
Yeah.
tiara.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But she goes to talk to Deanna. She's like, "Can you help me figure out the captain? Because we're not getting along here, And Troy's like, "Maybe you're more alike than you guys would like to admit. Maybe you have you have similar personalities." Troy's hair has been embiggened. Yeah, I think you're right there, Heather. That's it. Did it win the Emmy, or does it?
That's an officer.
Did it just get nominated for the Emmy?
No, they won. They won
it.
This is award-winning hair stuff here.
Okay, well, hey,
These two were looking at each other like, "Damn, you look good."
Damn, that's a good hair. Can I take this on the town tonight? And they're like, "Sure, you sure can."
But
I like this scene a lot, though.
Me too.
Good Deanna and good Pulaski.
Yeah, you gotta give her appreciation for trying to understand her captain and wanting to work better with him.
Yeah,
and Deanna does her job, and
Yes,
she does
she
it
does.
well. Her actual job.
And I think this is like the first time any character starts referring to her as Kate instead of Catherine or Dr. Pulaski, like using her a short form of her name. So indicating this familiarity as well. Remember how Picard wasn't happy with Pulaski because she didn't come and check in with Picard on the first mission?
Riker's daddy calls her Kate.
Yeah, that's right. That's because her and Riker's dad used to be a thing, or they still are. I don't know, but
No.
Scandalous. Yeah.
Kyle and Kate.
So then, good old Kate Pulaski, she calls down to the doctor on the planet, who's like, "You have to help these children. Will somebody please think of the children? They can't survive. We're all going to be dead soon, And I'm like, what could we do? So Pulaski's feeling guilty. Pulaski feels like she has to try to do something for these children.
Okay, I have a question. So have these children ever been conscious at this point, or are they still just an experiment on the table?
No, I think they have. I think they've been conscious. I think they've had
so
lives.
They brought them out and then stuck them in the plastic again.
No, I think that one guy was only in the plastic because he was beamed up. That's the only reason. I think otherwise they're playing chess there with their minds the rest of the time.
They're not talking.
They don't need to.
So they've been running around just aging really fast or something.
Yes, it would seem because even though you think that would make you age slower, having that perfect genetics, but I'm not sure. Perhaps they have they go faster here. So
that's where I'm confused.
Pulaski's determined to try, so she goes to Geordi. Help me figure this out. What can I do to can we section off the ship? He's like, there's nothing we can do because even sick bay can potentially get out, even with force fields and with other things. Like there's no way to guarantee.
No independent system.
There's no independent system. The only thing that would work is a shuttlecraft. And she's like, that's a great idea. Thank you, Geordi. He's like, no problem. So she goes to see Picard, who's, of course, back where he is. Come! And she's like, okay, I'm going to take a shuttlecraft over. I'll put myself at risk. And he's like, I don't know, but, I did give you these parameters. So he eventually says yes. And then she keeps arguing with him anyway. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to play ball with you here, Pulaski. So, go to it, right? Go take the kid on the shuttlecraft and prove to me that he's not a harm or a threat to the crew.
I like that scene a lot too.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah,
he's like, I realize you're trying to recognize my conditions.
Yeah, I'm willing to meet you halfway. So let's go for it. If you want to put yourself at risk, okay. So, but he doesn't love it.
Normally he doesn't let people do that.
No. But I think he recognizes some aspects of himself in Pulaski, as they have some similarities. So
that's what Deanna tells him. She's like, you both have very established personalities.
Yes. You're both stubborn as hell, So So she heads down. So she meets Data. Comes down. She's like, "You know how to fly that shuttle?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I can fly it." The Sakharov shuttle.
The Sakharov.
Sakharov.
Gary
Sakharov.
Sakharov. Is that name for somebody? I should know.
Yeah.
Russian.
A Russian.
Russian astronaut.
Oh, okay, Russian astronaut. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know how to do it." She's like, "Get on board," and he gets
And
kind of.
the planet that they're on is Gagarin, which is the first guy in space, Yuri Gagarin.
Oh right. So hey, a lot of props to the Russians in this particular episode.
The Russians got a lot of play in this one.
Yeah. So
See, this one wasn't filmed in 2025.
No,
No.
it was the 80s. We didn't know yet. Actually, no,
Right, we did.
we did know. We did know. It was the Cold War. What are we talking about? They were starting to forget.
We forgot. Now we remember.
Right. So yeah, they get in the shuttlecraft and Data's piloting it, and I think he's like, well,
So wait a second. Can Dr. Pulaski just say, "Hey, I'm going to commandeer Data," and
well,
yeah,
I imagine she would have asked for permission from Picard, but there's no scene to indicate that either. It's kind of weird. It's a little bit of a jump, yeah. But it makes sense that
she's like just a doctor and like can't do anything else in Starfleet.
And she's not trained to fly a shuttle, I guess. So, Data is the logical choice to do this. But well, they assume he can't be affected.
Yeah, the
likelihood is low, but it's not impossible. So they could potentially lose him, if this goes bad. They don't really know. This is all still a mystery, but they park the shuttle outside the nacelles. I do like, and you get to see like the external shots here from within the shuttle's, viewer port here, and I think it's well done in terms of how they craft the logistics of that. And he's like, "Hey, you don't know for sure I can't be infected, but I'm kind of worried about you. Are you willing to put yourself at risk?" And she's like, "Yep, this is what I believe in. I'm going to do it." And he's like, "Okay." So they get O'Brien has a helper guy too in this episode, working the controls.
Look, he's got Emmy-winning hair too.
They were like, "How would he get?" We need lots of people. We need lots of great hair. That's we're going for it in this episode.
I always think it's funny that the transport rooms, first of all, need somebody all the time.
Yeah,
and
just in case
they need two.
Right.
Yeah, but if you call for an emergency transport, you gotta be ready to go.
Because O'Brien has to go to sickbay just to watch this. I didn't really get that part of it. Like, it didn't seem like he needed to physically go to sickbay, but he does. And he gets his assistant to do it and beam him out.
He's a union man. He's a man of the people.
He's a union man. He's a supervisor. A foreman, if you will. So he materializes, and then we get to see Pulaski go through the exercise of taking him out of the styrolite, which was kind of a cool effect for the time. I think would look better now, but this 12-year-old man, she's doing the whole thing. Then he wakes up and she can hear his thoughts. He can talk to her telepathically, and she understands him completely. But Data can't hear any of that because he's an android. It was interesting that they didn't try to do the voiceover effect like they do with the Betazoids sometimes. Where we can hear that those
when Deanna talks to her mother.
Like when Deanna talks to her mother and vice versa. Yeah, that's not included here. But
can Data not hear him because Data's not human, or because he's not talking to Data?
Because Data's not human. Because I don't think the positronic brain is compatible with the telepathic stuff. But I don't know. It's inconsistent because sometimes Troy can detect Data's emotions if he happens to have them or whatever. So, but this guy who plays the kid, if you will, he just has he doesn't say anything, but he's got these bright eyes and he's kind of a childlike
and a receding hairline.
And a receding hairline, it's everything's aging faster.
I guarantee that guy's bald today.
Probably.
He's still alive. He's bald.
Oh, he's probably still alive.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, see if we can find that guy. But Pulaski's very cordial with him and smiling and everything else. Data mostly confused. There's a little bit of a jump here, and it's 12 minutes later. The shuttle is still waiting to get back to them, and Data's doing the scans on Pulaski to see if if she's ill. He doesn't detect anything right away, but then as Pulaski's doing her next scan on the kid, then she gets the arthritis. The arthritis strikes her, and it's the first symptom of the disease when you're infected. She lets out quite the cry here. The pain has to be given to her. She's not functioning on all parameters. She starts using technical language here with Data. And she says, no, I was dumb. This was a dumb move, and the kids, they don't have the disease, but they are carriers. So the fact that they did this in the shuttle was, if they were going to do it at all, was the responsible thing to do. But Picard feels this overwhelming sense, like a member of my crew is now got a fatal disease. I have to try to do something. There's nothing that O'Brien can do. He can't get it out with the biofilters because they said we beamed this kid twice, and if there's nothing that the biofilters could do, so they beam him from the shuttle down to the planet. Pulaski says it's not your fault, just as he's being dematerialized. And they decide that they're going to fly the shuttle down to the surface, and that the quarantine must be ordered now. So, yeah, there's a meeting of what they can do, but O'Brien has no real suggestions. And it was interesting to me that, they're like, well, we have to try to save Pulaski. We have to, maybe everybody on our ship would die, but who cares? We have to, there's often this sense in these TV shows that, when it's a member of, the main cast or it's a main character, the rules change. I feel like.
Bring her back.
I've solved the mystery.
Yeah, that was what? You'll all die of old age in a couple days.
The actor's name is George Baxter Holder, and he still has a fine set of hair.
There you go. Well,
there he is.
Yeah. So wasn't it that receding hairline came up? Unless he didn't get the implants or something.
That's just a natural hairline there.
Yeah. But look at O'Brien. He gets to actually come to the observation lounge and sit in a chair here and gets to, it's a good day for him. Not just in the transporter room, And he's the one who comes up with this idea. If I could get her transporter records and I can match it up to her original DNA, I think there might be a way to restore her without the disease. Right, and Geordi's like, I never would have thought of that. That's an incredible idea, right? So it's interesting that even though Geordi's considered one of the best engineers in all Starfleet, that it's.
See, I've never. Oh, go ahead.
I think that he's not thinking this way. It's great that O'Brien was.
Yeah. No,
I don't think Geordi is one of the best ones in Starfleet from what we see. Data does most of the interesting ideas. Geordi's good at picking one the best thing to do out of the book, but
and Wesley does a lot too.
Wesley, exactly. Geordi barely doesn't get to save the day engineering wise. He's not a good outside the box thinker. There's a reason
Geordi's just good
sitting at a museum.
Coolant leaks and stuff like that.
But he never solves those coolant leaks. He just goes rolling under the door and lets everything go to hell.
Yeah, that's true. He was a pilot.
The commandant of the museum. That's your retirement job.
Hey, why don't you just run the museum? That would be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In an alternate timeline, he became a captain of the Challenger. But anyway, so Pulaski and Data, they go down to the planet where, it's these outpost scientists who have been infected longer are about roughly the same age as Pulaski is at this point, but because they were in the shuttle, she kind of got a more potent dose or something, exposure to the virus. They say, sorry, Data, sorry. He's Pulaski's he's an android, don't worry about it, he'll be fine.
Which is not really how viruses work by my understanding.
No, I think
if you've got the plague, you've got the plague.
Yeah, I think, and she but it seems to be the aging is going much slower for Dr. Sarah Kingsley than it is for Pulaski.
I didn't really like Dr. Kingsley, the way she spoke, and she looks so.
Well, I think Pulaski, though, you got to remember, Pulaski was a lot older than she was. Kingsley there is only 35,
right?
And Pulaski's 55 type thing.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah, you're right. So she's older to start.
I think one thing that's consistent in early TNG too, and maybe through the whole thing, is when actors have to play old people, it's generally awful. Like when Jameson had to play an old person, it was awful. Like,
what about when like
people, they just overacted, and it's just like old people don't really.
Remember when Michael J. Fox played the older version of himself, or even
it's not good.
There was also there was Leah Thompson in Back to the Future as well, and Biff Tannen. Yeah, right. So hey, sometimes it works better than others. They tend to overact a little bit with the elderly part, right? But this Sarah Kingsley, I think they just got an older actress to do it instead of trying to get somebody young to do it. Anyway, so we see the kids. They got. She
still seems to be acting like an old person.
She does. She's an old soul.
Definitely have the '80s jumpers on and colors. Yeah.
We see that same guy again. He's back here in his thing. So I guess they're all about 12 and younger. I guess we're led to believe. They're playing 3D chess. They're moving things with their mind. They're doing they're telekinetic and telepathic, and it feels like eugenics here. But they kind of work it out here that because these kids have such a powerful immune system, that when the Lantry came through, one of the first officer had this flu, and their immune systems attacked it and created sort of like this super virus that then started affecting everybody else. And that
she's sort of playing older. She's like 57 when they're filming this, so she seems to be like playing like older than that.
The one who's playing Kingsley,
yeah.
So they try to get the transporter records from Pulaski's old ship, and this is where Picard calls up her old Captain Taggart, who is like, I don't know if you noticed, but she's pretty stubborn, and she doesn't like transporters, And I don't know. And then he's also said, what if she's so good, then Captain Taggart, why'd you let her go? He's like, I didn't want to lose her, but when she found out there was an opening with you and your ship, she couldn't resist. She wanted to go. Picard's just like, extraordinary. This woman's the bane of my existence, and she loves me. Or what the hell's going on here?
I think you might want to know more about flying shuttles since she's afraid of transporters.
Yeah, you think so?
She might have wanted to find that out when he interviewed her before he took her.
Yeah,
it's a little bit late.
Yeah, I don't know if there was an interview.
Picard doesn't really do that. Like, didn't he just choose Riker for like one thing he did? Like,
one thing in his record. He this guy. He seems like the right type. Data does a whole bunch of like analysis of all of the medical knowledge here, and he's able to work out what happened with the virus and why it's happening, and how it became what it became, so that they can figure this out. But there's no necessarily cure, and they're all feeling kind of doomed. We go back to the Enterprise, where now Picard is checking in with Pulaski. The aging going on here, the aging of the hairstyles going on as well, of course. Emmy Woodward.
They frosted those tips.
Where did she go to the hairstylist between visits?
Well, they had somebody on the Darwin station and the Gagarin planet. Yeah, so then Pulaski gives us like this whole will be my last chief medical officer log. This planet's doomed. We're all dying, and this quarantine must be maintained forever. And the children down here, I don't know, they'll have to figure it out, I guess. Maybe you can beam them down a sandwich or something, everybody. And it's kind of, I don't know, where they leave it here. But Picard and the crew, they don't want to accept this. They can't let their compatriot go down, die. But they don't know what else to do at this point. Dad, what did you think of like this matte painting of like of the planet itself? Did it remind you of original series?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit of a shot of Vulcan.
Yeah, it reminds me of like that the unaired the pilot, the one with Kirk, where what's it called, where no one has gone before. And this, that kind of looks like the same kind of outpost to me in a lot of ways. The one with Gary Mitchell and all that.
Looks like an AT-AT from Star Wars in the background.
A little bit, yeah. Then Data's getting ready to leave. Pulaski and Kingsley, they have been aged up more so.
That Emmy-winning old people hair.
That's Emmy award-winning old hair. What did I say? Those aerobic athlete outfits are giving body break. Hal Johnson and Joe. Yeah, good point.
Clearly, wigs count. Like you can get nominated for best hair for doing wigs.
For just wigs, yeah. Because I don't think this is Diana Muldaur's natural hair.
Notice that they didn't win for makeup.
They did not win for makeup here, but I don't think that the makeup's bad. Like I
don't either.
If you look up a picture of Diana Muldaur now, she more or less looks like this. If when you compare like the episode "The Deadly Years" from original series for how they thought he would look when he was aged up, and then what he actually looked like at that age, there's quite a difference. But this more or less kind of looks like how Diana Muldaur does now, except her hair is a more yellowish, I would say, than white. But
and how embarrassing for them is it? Like when they have Old Man Picard in Inner Light, and there's that other one where he ages up.
Right.
Turns out in real life he ages in reverse and just gets younger looking.
Yes, not his voice though.
No,
he's got that. I could play you a clip, but anyway. So there's kind of this moment here with Data and Pulaski as he's having to leave her here. And as they beam up Data, well, I guess there's a scene here on the bridge where they're still trying to figure what to do first. There's kind of like this defeated look, and Picard decides to go down to meet with Data as he materializes. And I guess they're in terms of making sure that Data doesn't bring the disease with him, because when you beam somebody, you also beam like I guess a little bit of air around them and stuff too, right? So they have to like kind of try to. They say get
I
all.
think I know who this guy is.
This transporter assistant guy?
Yeah, look at the back of his head. I think he's like Data's stunt double.
Maybe he might well be. He could be Brent Spiner's like stand-in or stunt double or
He
something.
kind of looks like it.
Shatner has great genetics. Yeah. Well, hey.
Freaking right, he does.
He does.
He's got you won't find a sharper mind than a 95-year-old or whatever he is.
4. Yeah. But yes.
Yeah, no, he won't.
So they're able to do some transporter hijinks here, get Data to materialize. Then Picard meets Data and says, he kind of explains this idea they have to try to do the transporter records. And help me out here, guys. I'm trying to they're working with O'Brien and
working with O'Brien. He's setting it up, and at this point, what I find was interesting is that we've been introduced to O'Brien here. He's clearly set up to be a main character for us. But when he actually has to do it, he doesn't want to do the beaming. Right. Because he's like, I don't have to beam.
Done.
I don't have to do this, abort her into space. So you better do it, Picard. If someone has to beam her into space, you do it. It
seems like, you wouldn't tell your captain that. No, I'm not going to do the job.
No. But, I don't know, yeah, it was kind of strange. Picard almost, volunteers for the role. Anyway, so Picard and Data go off. They say, you said, you heard him. Start pulling off panels there, assistant man. It would be great if, O'Brien had this assistant for every O'Brien appearance on TNG, where he's just ordering this guy around all the time. Anyway, so they're looking for the transport records. But
his name was Julian. Julian!
Yeah. They can't find anything in sickbay records, so Riker and Data have to go off here and try to find a skin cell, find anything, find any of her DNA, and then they go a hairbrush, and they pull
nailed
out.
It.
Yeah, he is Data stand-in.
Nailed
there you go. They find they pull open her drawer and they find one hair of hers, and they can use that for the follicle to map her DNA. They explain what they want to do to Pulaski, and she's like, I don't know, sounds interesting, good work. I'm willing to give it a shot. If it works, then maybe we can save the rest of the people down here.
There's the one that put them over the edge for the Emmy right there. That one. Go back to Pulaski's.
That hair, yeah.
That's luscious.
Well, I thought you were talking about Worf.
Yeah.
Worf always looks good.
With the coif.
Yeah, he used some conditioner that day. And then with Troy. But anyway, they're going to give this a shot. So they get the whole team down in the transporter room. Geordi's there, Data's there, O'Brien's there. What a team to try to pull this off.
It just might work.
It might just work. But Picard, he's not gonna make O'Brien kill somebody into oblivion. He'll do it himself. That's what the captain does. And he does the beaming. They beam up Pulaski, and it's not working right away. It seems like they might have to abort this, But they say, wait, Captain. Just give it a second. O'Brien's
like, all right, I'll do it, Captain. You're not doing it right.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, I feel like O'Brien
do it.
does something here. He saves the day somehow.
Totally does.
I shouldn't have done this. Give this to the captain. And
yeah.
For years.
That's why he got off this ship. He's like, I can't deal with this ship anymore. It's just a bunch of doofuses.
Exactly. So there's a kind of a moment where it doesn't seem like this work, and then finally she goes from old Pulaski to young Pulaski in the beam, and she's big smiles. It's all worked out. There's a whole moment.
That effect was jarring because
a hug
like a
here,
gradual change. It's just like she's young. It's like old, young.
Yeah, it's kind of nice for Picard to kind of like have this moment where he wants to hug because that's not normally his move, but
it's weird.
Yeah,
even the way he does it, like his hands are sort of like.
Yeah, he's like, I don't normally do this or know how to do this, but I'm going to try. So
tell me this is called a hug.
It's not his shtick.
Not his normal shtick. No, exactly. But O'Brien, he's like, that's nice. That's nice.
I'm British. This is a lot for me right now.
Yeah. Now get the hell out of my transporter room. I'm gonna have to spend a week putting this back together.
I gotta clean the pad. I gotta do all.
Yeah. So then there's kind of a walk here with Picard and Pulaski where he's like, if it didn't work, I was going to have to spread your atoms across the solar system. And she's like, that's okay. Every time I get in the damn thing, I figure that's what's going to happen to me anyway. So at least.
So what was missing here for me is that de-aging the space station crew or that space.
Yeah, they just kind of yada all that, and didn't they would have had to had a hair or something for every single one of them, right? And
they aren't They would have transported onto the station though. They're not like weird afraid of transporter people. They're scientists, right?
And the fact that it was Pulaski and that they didn't have her full records yet or something because she hadn't got here, even though they can call her old captain.
Seemed like they saved her, but then abandoned everybody else.
Yeah, but we're told off camera that they did save everybody else. So we'll think they're. Well, that's what they told us. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of this shot here too. Like, doesn't the Enterprise look strange? Like in this.
It's too far back.
Yeah, it felt like a digital version of the Enterprise almost. Anyway,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, just when I was watching, I was like, that looks a little off. Anyway, so they decide to go back to the Lantry, which now that they know what's happened here and they hear the warning beacon that they left in place.
So this was interesting. I thought it was interesting they didn't have Majel Barrett's voice here. It was some man.
It was a man's voice, yeah. And
the computer was?
Yeah, the computer. The
warning computer on the Enterprise, but the warning, the beacon.
Yeah. And so this is like I had forgotten about this scene, but like in Discovery, they scuttle the USS what's it called? Glenn. It was the sister ship of the Discovery in the first season. I don't know if you remember that episode, Adam, but that's the only time I can ever remember them scuttling a ship like this, where they're just going to blow it up. They're not even going to try to salvage.
They were quite close to it to blow it up too.
Yeah, they really came in close.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a.
Like, how far did they say? 40 kilometers or something?
Get within 40 kilometers of a ship with a warp core. That's gonna blow up here, and like I just remember when like in Generations, the movie, when the drive section blows up, like I feel like that saucer section was within 40 kilometers, and we saw what happened to the saucer section in that movie. But maybe they have shields up or something, so it's not as much of an issue. But yeah, they kaboom it. Yeah, see you later, Lantry.
And there's no pieces. Just
no pieces. Just completely vaporized, more or less, And there's nothing left. But like, where does the matter go? Even if you like blow it up, like wouldn't it be? It would still be in the form of a gas or something. You're in space. You can't.
You'd think there would be a serious repercussion, like percussion, to make the ship shake like hell.
Right, but none of that happens here. It's It's just kind of like, okay, well, that's that. And then Picard says, okay, engage, let's get out of here. And that is the end of the episode. So we got some kind of, the USS Glenn, maybe. Good call there. What else is the Trek reviewer saying? We do see Kirk's stunt doubles from Star Trek 3 in the TNG episode Lonely Among Us. He's the nurse that is with Crusher when they go to check on Worf at the beginning of the episode. Okay, good to know. Speaking of fun facts, Adam, do you have some more trivia for us?
I do, yeah. Pulaski's internal log states that no matter who benefits in the long term from the scientific progress, in the short term, someone always ends up paying the price.
Interesting thought.
I was looking up Sakharov on the side there when we were talking about the shuttle. This guy's interesting. He was a physicist, Soviet physicist, Nobel Peace. I don't know. He was nominated anyway. But it turns out he was a dissident in the Soviet Union and actually persecuted in the end.
Yes. Yeah. And he was sent up to the gulags.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So what's going on with that guy? Okay. So what else is going? So as we mentioned, the Landry was a model of the Reliant.
Right.
Without the roll bar, as Davan pointed out. So there you go.
Where's the deflector, though?
I don't. They don't mention the deflector. Gosh. So Chief O'Brien was actually a last-minute addition to the teleplay. Originally, the story featured a young engineering genius named Rena, whose beauty caused male colleagues to repeatedly experience pratfalls. I'm not sure what pratfalls is.
Glad they got rid of that.
Oh, me too. That sounds terrible.
Which led to a romantic. Oh gosh, led to a romantic subplot with LaForge.
Seems like more like a Riker thing. Like, there's a hot woman down in the transporter room. Let's go down there.
But, go down there and fix something.
Showrunner Maurice Hartley found the character obnoxious and deleted her when he rewrote the teleplay, replacing her with Comini's until then nameless character, and finally named his character.
So this is when he finally gets a name. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's something good that Maurice Hurley did, right? Like, he
really lasted one season, as you said earlier.
He kind of created this Chief O'Brien character, in some ways, even though Colmini had been seen before that, but
It took more than 20 takes for Jonathan Frakes to correctly order Worf to initiate the quarantine transmitters on the Lantry and activate her marker beacons. After several failures, he alternated between swearing and laughing each time he botched the line.
Adam got it in one.
Dr. Pulaski has the same phobia as the transporter as Leonard McCoy did, which is a commonality between the two doctors.
And Reg
including
Barkley.
their personalities.
Pardon me?
And Reg Barkley.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he didn't like the transporter either. Is there anyone else? Well, those are the main ones that I can recall.
A lot of people on Enterprise.
Well, in Enterprise in the beginning, like, nobody likes the transporter, and by like the fourth season, I feel like they're using it all the time.
Yep.
Where was I here? Okay, we talked about that. As the Doctor is exposed to the genetically altered child's disease, Data suggests that he and the Doctor head to the planet's surface in the shuttlecraft. However, Data is then beamed back aboard the Enterprise, and then the Doctor came back as her normal self. I guess they left the shuttlecraft.
Yeah, and so, I'm trying to remember what happens to the kids in the end. Are they separated from their parents, or
they are quarantined on the ship somewhere? But it's weird.
Yeah. Like, what happens to those people? It's kind of a weird.
Drop them off at Star Trek headquarters, Starfleet Command.
Maybe. So they can all get infected with an.
And then I'll leave it with this. I'll leave it with this today. Colmini remarked, "I liked this episode a lot. I thought it was really good. It held your interest and had a marvelously sort of detective story in a way. While at the same time, it was making a statement about the dangers of all these wonderful scientific developments." That can be used for great benefit. It also said something deeper about the dangers of them, and it begged the question: should we really be trying this?
This would be like an anti-vax episode. In like,
well, I think that they missed a big mark here as far as like answering the whole eugenics thing, though. But anyway, they didn't do anything with it. So there you go, guys. Let's rate this sucker.
Yeah, let's do it.
I just got to complain for a second about the fact that whole trick that they came up with to solve this problem is too big of a MacGuffin. It should get used 1,000 more times just in this show alone. So it's not well thought out in that way.
You're right. Like anytime somebody has a disease or anything, we can just anything. Like you have a terminal. Whatever,
like when Geordie got turned into that like neon lizard, why didn't they just beam him back to Geordie? Like you can do that all the time. It solves 100 episodes.
That's why Hurley never came back after the season, because he screwed this up.
They're like, Gene Roddenberry's like, you just ruined transporters forever,
Maurice,
and all medical episodes. All right, well, I think you're right about that. Yeah, but anyway, let's get into it.
Can I go first because there's more nebulas happening upstairs?
Yes, you can. Okay.
All right. I mean, despite the fact that it has like that, which is a huge problem, and that other thing I mentioned earlier that was annoying, I'll give it a 7 anyway.
7
I'm
from
entertained by it.
A 7 from Davan. Okay.
Gotta go. Good chatting with you, fellas.
Okay. Thanks, Davan.
Good chatting with you. I would give it an 8, Dave. I thought it was pretty good. It kept my interest. Pretty good.
All right.
I would give it an 8.
That's pretty good. Adam.
I liked it again. 7.5. A good, solid Dr. Pulaski episode.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm going 7.5 as well. I think it's pretty strong for an episode that's pretty simple, but you're right. It holds your interest, and I think that just this whole aspect around O'Brien, I really appreciate too. That he gets kind of the birth of his character is kind of in this episode in a lot of ways. So so we're averaging a 7.5. This has an average. This has a 6.5 on IMDb.
Heather only give it a 5.
Heather gave it a 5.
Yeah.
Bunk hairstyles. Well, she's not so impressed. She's not giving out Emmys for these hairstyles.
It was the 80s, Heather. It was the 80s.
It was the 80s. It was the end of the 80s. But, let us know what you think this rating is of this episode, everybody, in the comments. Our next episode is A Matter of Honor. So we got that coming up next week. We'll be back on Thursday. That is the episode where Riker goes on the Klingon exchange program. He's becomes the first officer of a Klingon ship. And there's also that Benzite guy who comes in, Mendon. I remember really loving that episode, so I'm excited to talk about that one. I think next week we have Davan. Sorry, I did have this ready. We have Davan, Heather, and Jody on the panel next week. So
hey Dave, I like what their Trek reviewer wrote. It's a good way to look at this.
What do you say?
In the ratings.
For season 2, this episode is an 8 out of 10, but for TNG, it's a 6.5. Well, you're not wrong. I think that sometimes when you're rating episodes, and when we do a season, right? I remember even rating like season 1 of Deep Space Nine, and I felt like I gave out more generous ratings than I would if I had watched some of those episodes in the middle of like season 5. Yeah. So
I find myself often having to think of the season and where they were in the evolution of the characters, and
right.
When you're rating things like this.
Yeah, where they were along the development. I remember in season 6 of Deep Space Nine, there are some of the best episodes of the entire show in that season, and there are some of the worst. But maybe they're not the worst. Maybe they just feel like the worst because you come off these great highs, and then you get like sort of a stinker of an episode, and you're sort of like, oh, this is so what's going wrong here? Looking forward to A Matter of Honor next week. Looking forward to talking to you about that, Heather. Yeah, we didn't know it was the 80s. There you go. We didn't know. Dad, are you understanding that reference?
No.
The we didn't know, because when we used to do original series ratings and reviews, and you were like, it was the 60s. We didn't know about these things yet.
You said it all the time, Ted. You're hilarious.
Yeah. So throughout this whole review of TNG, I'm like, it's the 80s. We don't know about things yet. It's just how it is.
And Ted, now I'm the old guy on the series.
Yeah. I had to defend the 60s, especially that one. That one with they went back into the 1960s. Remember?
Assignment Earth.
Assignment Earth. Oh yeah.
Earth, yeah.
Well, when we were on the cruise, Denise Crosby ran like this improv thing where they watched that episode on silent, and then they would just make up voices and everything else, and they were trying to figure out the episode. Like, why is there a cat here? Why does he seem to have a thing for his cat? Was kind of like the big commentary there.
What was the cat's name? Do you remember?
ISIS.
Yeah.
ISIS, like the terrorist group.
No, like Egyptian god. Come on, let's.
Egyptian god of the war or something.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody, thanks for being with us. Tomorrow night, you're hearing it here first. We haven't really announced this yet. We haven't put it on the schedule, but we were having an interview with Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager here on the channel tomorrow. It will be me and Davan talking to him for an hour. We're looking forward to talking about all kinds of things, his career, Star Trek Voyager, which of course is in its 30th season or anniversary rather, and we're also going to be talking about astronomy and a whole bunch of other topics. His musical career, the fact that we were just on the cruise together. Did he get COVID? We're gonna get to the bottom of it all. So check out that. We'll be on at 6 o'clock.
Did you like the buffet? We have to find out that too.
Did you like the buffet? He seemed to enjoy the buffet. He went back for seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think he was okay with it. So we're going to get to the bottom of all that and more tomorrow here on Live Long and Podcast, as we're going to chat with Tim Russ at 6 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Atlantic, and 3 p.m. in the Pacific time zone where he'll be coming from. So looking forward to that quite a bit. And then check out all our great stuff. We'll be back, we promise, this Monday for our next episode of The Orville, talking about Season 3, Episode 7 from Unknown Graves. And all the other great stuff here. And I think Strange New Worlds, Adam, I think it's finally coming, maybe.
They don't have a date yet.
No date. But one day this year we will.
You know what I heard? They just wrapped production on Season 4.
Yeah. It takes them like a year from the time they finish principal photography to when they put them out. So it's going to, But when they finally do, we will be talking about it here on the channel. Well, Dad, thanks for being with us for this one. We'll hope you'll be back for another one, and
I'll be back for the board. I'm coming.
Yeah,
back
we'll bring you.
board.
We got to bring you back for Q-Who. So that's episode 16 of this season. So this was episode. Yeah, so this was episode. Yeah, we go in order on this one. So
not like ours. We went all over the place.
Yeah, if you actually go to the channel, Dad, you can see that I have two playlists. I have the ones that are not in the order of how they air on the show, and then there's the order we did it in. So when you watch it in the actual order of the show, we have different hair lengths and agings and different backgrounds. It's quite the trip. Beards, no beards. It's quite the trip. So you should go back and look at that one day. Well, we'll leave you with a quote from the episode, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Extreme caution. The USS Landry is a quarantined vessel by order of Starfleet Command. Do not board.
See you next time.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.